It's Trial Tuesday, and the care and safety of our children is of utmost importance. So when allegations of abuse arise, the Department of Social Services steps in to investigate. Now, Attorney David Aylor is here to navigate the details of a DSS investigation. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we hear about it all the time on the news. DSS is investigating. Where does it start?
A lot of times it starts with a report, and that report can be from someone within a school, a church, a neighbor, a family member, or it can just be ultimately the child themselves making a report, to the authorities.
So it starts on a social level. They see,
Correct.
teacher, whoever sees something that, raises red flags, they go ahead and report.
Right.
And then what takes place after that?
At some point thereafter, DSS is brought in, and if they determine that an investigation is needed, and how they do that is very much subjective. It's not something that we would be a part of. They'll start their formal investigation. There's a number of steps. We really don't have time to get into all of them, but what that means is, they'll obviously contact the family. They'll contact whoever the guardians of the children are, if it's the parents or grandparents or whoever it may be. Let them know what's going on. Most often they'll remove the child or children from the home and then start their investigation. And that's where it really starts to get serious. Obviously, they're very serious, understandably, looking into what the allegations are. And on the other side, for those that are accused, it's just as serious.
So when do you step in? So DSS starts to investigate. When do people come to you for assistance?
Well, a lot of times you don't see people actually come to an attorney until later on down the line, because they feel like perhaps that they didn't do anything. This is informal. This is of a, some civil, domestic type of scenario. It's not a police officer interrogating them, and then they'll make statements and go ahead and do interviews without the assistance of counsel. Unfortunately, though, that'll lead to charges later more often than not, simply because the things you are saying and what you're telling is information that can be disclosed to the authorities. So I always tell clients or potential clients, when asked generally about it, hey, if I'm under investigation for, from the Department of Social Services, does that mean I'm in a police investigation? The answer to that really is yes and no. What it does mean is that the information you provide can be provided to the police, which could lead to charges. So I always suggest that you at least consult with an attorney. If not, go ahead and retain one at the start of that process.
If we learn nothing else from you weekly, it's that usually your best bet is to at least talk to an attorney up front before anything else happens.
Exactly, and that's simply because in this situation, people feel like, oh, well, this is silly. This is something my neighbor said because they don't like me, or my son or daughter is making things up because they're upset I took their phone away. And sometimes that is the case. And unfortunately, a lot of these resolve quickly. However, certain missteps or things that are maybe put in a different direction or words taken out of context can really lead to some serious trouble. And beyond that, of course, the loss of your children.
And have you seen it? Obviously can't get into too much detail, but have you seen it where it goes too long and they come to you too late?
Absolutely. And not only then, what you have is potential criminal charges looming, or you'd have a very long DSS process and investigation that lasts for months and months, or even years, where you don't have your children. So it's good to get counsel on there from the very beginning. If it's just a DSS matter, some people are more comfortable talking to a domestic attorney and looking at it that way, which is completely fine. They're going to have some understanding of that process, but of course the criminal side too. But again, remember that when they're investigating you for any of these allegations, more often than not, these aren't just inappropriate things. These would, if found, responsible or guilty, could be criminal charges brought against you, separate from the DSS investigation and finding.
Wow. So on the flip side, if someone watching right now, knows someone or thinks somewhere there needs to be a DSS investigation, what should they do?
They can report it to DSS, of course. They can report it to the authorities, who then refer it to DSS. Unfortunately, a lot of times people are concerned about doing that because they're concerned whether it's going to remain anonymous or not. And, that's going to really be specific to the situation, particularly if that person may be an interested witness that they need to look at for the investigation.
Okay, so they can go and inform it, and then you would come in later. Would the person reporting it need to go to you, or no?
Sometimes people just get the counsel just to help them through the process, but generally speaking, they wouldn't have to have it as long as they weren't, directly involved and maybe have their own culpability for something they've witnessed. Because you can get in trouble simply if you've sat there and watched and been exposed to abuse and not done anything about it.
David Aylor, thank you. The go-to guy. Always good to have a conversation with him before anything, right? Thanks for being here, and we'll have much more on Low Country Live coming up after the break, so stay with us.
Trial Tuesday, brought to you by attorney David Aylor.